Brothers, sisters, and cousins, what's going on? You have MadLab here in MadLab TV, your new home for MMA Daily Fantasy Sports. About 2 weeks ago on Halloween night, while kids were filling up bags of candy, I don't even know how they're trick-or-treating today, to be honest with you. I think they're doing like that car hopping stuff. But I took down around $12,000 in MMA Daily Fantasy Sports in the tournament, in the biggest tournament in DraftKings that Saturday night. 2 weeks later, my subscriber base took a little bit of an insult to that. And 4 of them last week, including my business partner, ends up taking down the big one for a grand total of, I believe, about 45,000 bologna sandwiches in total. I'm not partial to bologna, but I am hungry. I bet you guys want to know how I did that, and I'm going to give you a brief inside look on how we did that and what our angle was. So let's go. All right, guys, really quick, before we get started, you guys know the drill. Click subscribe, hit the bell below. Anytime I post anything with Daily Fantasy Sports, FanDuel, DraftKings, Monkey Knife Fight, anything possibly maybe with some weekly wagers, reviews, anything to do combat sports related, you will be notified when they do go up on MadLab TV. Well, now that you follow the rules like good little girls and boys, it's time to get rolling. I'm going to let you know exactly, not exactly, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a sample size of how we did this. First off, you got to do one thing. What is different in this video right now? You got to put your hat backwards. You got to be like Sylvester Stallone and over the top. You got to put your hat backwards. All right, so now that you guys did all that other shit up top and you're supposed to, click and subscribe and do all that, now we can get into it. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a sample size on how we did this. And listen, it's not easy. It's nothing that happens every day. We are just really, really dialed in right now, and we just have a formula. I have a certain formula in place that I really like that I'm going to give you a little bit of sample size, just a little bit of knowledge, and then you guys can, take what you want from it. You guys can come over to the MadLabMMA.com. You can subscribe there and really get the, meat and potatoes of everything. But, when people really start off in daily fantasy sports or MMA daily fantasy sports, whether it's DraftKings, whether it's FanDuel, Monkey Knife Fight, whatever corner, they're trying to angle or capture, their first question is, how do you construct this lineup? How do you figure out the variables? How do you figure out, who has the most upside, who to fade, who not to fade, who to play kind of in the middle, about their pricing and stuff like that. So the one thing I did notice is a lot of content providers and stuff, they really premise it all and predicate it all almost on the football, hockey, and baseball streamline. And, with numbers and metrics and all that stuff. And I get it. Like, listen, football, baseball, basketball, that is a very predominantly metric-based sports where you could really utilize that tool as a heartbeat to what you're trying to do. Because there's so many variables involved as far as, it's not just one-on-one. It's not really a matchup-based thing as much as fighting is. Fighting's a little bit differently. So when I came into this whole thing, I kind of, like I said in my first video, I kind of threw metrics out the window. Not throwing them out the window, but I used them as a bonus, just some bonus knowledge for myself to really, if I didn't see something or I thought the guy was a little bit too much high volume or a little reckless, then you could look at the metrics and stuff like that. But when you're talking about fighting where it's really so matchup predicated, so matchup based, numbers really don't mean anything, because you can have a striker versus a striker where he's going to throw all this output out. And then the next fight, you got a striker versus a grappler. Now he's got to defend 2 levels. He's got to defend 2 levels, and he's got to, he can't be as, insistent on pressuring, or there's just so many variables involved. And at the end of the day, you could be a minus 1,200 favorite, a minus 1,400 favorite, a minus 2,000 favorite. This is why you fight to fight. This is why the fight is fought, because somebody can literally just step into the pocket the wrong way, open up a window, and get caught by a plus 800 underdog. Happens all the time. Happens all the time. So how did we do this? Another thing that people do is how many lineups? What is the lineup share? How many lineups are you pushing? What kind of tournaments in MMA Daily Fantasy Sports are you targeting? So I like to tell my people this. This is something you really, really got to understand. You really got to absorb. We all like to hit the lottery, right? We all like to go into these big tournaments with the dollar in the dream, with the 29, 30, 40,000 people. So hope we can hit the $1 million. Hope we can hit the $100,000 mark, whatever the case may be, whatever you're looking for. And I get that. You know what? Some people, that's really all they play it for. They're not doing it to make money. They're not doing it to, you know, build a bankroll. Every week they'll throw $100 in, $200, and they'll just see maybe something will stick one day. And I get that too. I understand that. But if you're going to play for the longevity of this, and you're going to play to really, you want to maximize your profit and maximize your bankroll, you can't take that approach all the time. You could take that approach as a side dish, but your meat and potatoes have to be tournaments where you can honestly play on the same level field as some of these sharks, because these sharks are going into these tournaments doing 150 lineups, you know, max entry and everything. So if you want to max entry in things and you don't got the bankroll to max entry in 150 lineups, where do you go? You're better off targeting these tournaments that are 3 entry max, single entries, because at the end of the day, you could be a shark or you cannot be a shark. Anything can happen in fighting. It's anybody's game at that point. But if you're going against somebody, if you put 5 to 10 lineups in and you're dealing with somebody who's got 150 lineups at that point, and he's got a good optimization going, you're going to really fall behind the 8 ball. I try to teach a 10 lineup construction education to my people. And it doesn't mean that you have to adhere to that. If you're going to go 20, then you're going to times that by 2. If you're going to go 30, you're going to times that by 3. It's really what you're comfortable with. But the tournament that I won 2 weeks ago was based on 5 lineups, 5 hand-built lineups. And I went against about 29,000 people that a lot of people max entry at with 150, 50, 100, 5. 2 weeks ago, last week, all my subscribers did that off the 10 lineup handle. All of them. 5 to 10 lineup handle. They all tied for first on a 10. Just because they followed the process. They followed what I'm trying to explain to them, how fighting is different, how you kind of got to throw the metrics out of the way. You know, a lot of these people are going to come in here and they're just going to go on the metric sites and they're going to look, well, okay, he's got 5 takedowns per affair and he's doing this, he's doing that. This guy should be a good play. That's not the way he goes. That'll give you a little bit of hindsight on what kind of style he's producing inside the cage, but it's not telling the full tale. Nothing is like the eye test. I'm sorry to tell you that, but nothing is like the eye test. There is no trainer out there, whether it's boxing or MMA, that sits in front of a computer and goes over just metrics. They don't do that. They go by the eye test and they blueprint things from the eye test. So why should we be any different? If you don't know what you're talking about and you don't understand the game and you've never done it and you've never rolled, if you've never boxed, I get it. You're going to go towards the metrics and you're going to feed your people metrics and metrics and metrics. But if you know the game and you understand how matchups work and what matchups may work, you know, how high a certain pedigree is or should be against another, you know, matchup, then you're going to start to really learn that the eye test is really the more foolproof one of them both. So I bring a heavy, heavy dosage of the eye test. When I'm done with the eye test, I will go through their metrics and I will say, all right, well, this is a super close fight. You know, this guy's matched up very well against A. He's matched up very well against B. What do I do here? Let's look at the metrics now. Then I'll pull the metrics in. But if you're going straight from a metric base, you know, in MMA, it just doesn't really calculate with me. It doesn't resonate with me. I'm still that paper and pen kind of guy, you know, where I got to write things down and, you know, I had a dictator where I would dictate certain things, and while I'm watching film, I'll talk into it, and I'll go back and I'll revert to that. That's basically how I do it. Then I match them up almost like a fantasy showdown, and I want to see, okay, well, this is how I'm expecting this to play out. Forget the numbers, forget the knockout ratio, forget all that other bullshit. You don't know where they fought, who they fought, how they fought. They're fighting this person who is original. This is an original mold of a different fighter that they've never faced before. Everybody they face, they could face with somebody with a similar style, but it's not that fighter. It's a completely different animal. It's a different person. It's a different mindset. It's a different training camp. It's a different blueprint. It's a different angle. So when you're approaching any kind of daily fantasy sport, you know, DraftKings, FanDuel, even with bets, weekly bets and stuff like that, you really got to keep in mind on what sport you're trying to target. And if you're targeting MMA in daily fantasy sports, it's completely, you guys got to pull yourself out of that football equation and that soccer equation and all that other, you got to pull yourself out of that. And you got to really start utilizing the eye test, you know, the eye test with it. And if you don't know the eye test and you just don't know what you're watching, that's okay. That's okay too, because you could basically learn. And like I said, you can also come to, you know, the MadLabMMA.com, and I'll do majority of the heavy lifting for you, and I will teach you. I got a lot of guys in there that have been, you know, subscriber of mine for 5 to 6 years that knew nothing about MMA Daily Fantasy Sports, nothing about MMA, nothing about it at all. And these guys are now very, very sharp. They're in our War Lab. They're in our private chats. I hear them talking all the time, and they're extremely, extremely sharp. They want a ton of money, and I'm grateful to be a part of that. So you got to think that way. You don't want to always jump in, and you don't always want to plug these big tournaments. We were very fortunate to hit these tournaments. I push my people to play in these tournaments small. There's no reason to go in big on these tournaments, but you should be in. You got to be in it to win it, right? But you also got to target cash games. You got to target the 3-entry maxes. You got to target all those things that give you a more even playing field with some of the higher players in there that have the bankrolls to sit there and stick 150 lineups in there when you maybe only have the money to stick 10. So you can jump in there and you can win with those 10, like I did, like my subscribers did, okay? But if you're going in a 3-entry max, and at that point, your playing field is even at that point. All right, you're in a $50 3-entry max, $20 3-entry max, $100 single entry, $1,000 single entry. Now you're playing with not 29,000 people. You may be playing with 1,000 people, 700 people. So the differential in percentage of you winning is far greater, far greater. But you have to have patience and you have to have discipline in daily fantasy sports. You really, really do. You can't expect to, listen, it happens. You can hit the big one overnight and boom, you're good. But that's not really the way it happens. And I'm here to tell you the truth. That's not the way it happens. You're not going to it's not an easy game. If it was an easy game, everybody would be doing it. It takes time. It takes patience. It takes building your bankroll. It takes losing. It takes winning. It takes losing. It takes winning. It's going to be a roller coaster, but eventually it starts sticking and you'll start winning more than you lose, winning more than you lose. But you got to play the right games. You got to target the right tournaments, and you got to also be patient with building your bankroll. And that's what I teach over at the MadLabMMA.com. I'm not the type of guy, even in the weekly bets. I mean, listen, we cover a lot of MMA DFS fantasy sports. We cover a lot of DraftKings, a lot of Monkey Knife Fight, a lot of FanDuel. But we also do cover a lot of weekly bets and wagering and stuff like that. And one thing that you will look at, we have not been in the red at all since opening. We've been nothing but green. Everybody's cashing money. I do it on a very conservative scale. You'll get a lot of people out there that are betting 30 fights in a night. Of course things are going to stick. They're doing max bets. They're doing fucking, 5-6 units on minus 200 favorites and stuff like that. Of course, you're going to end up getting some sticks. But you know what? You're also going to have that fucking night where you're going to have a blood run, where you're going to get bludgeoned, and all those units are going to just drop down. We have a steady climb of units, and that's what you want. You don't want to play greedy, and you also need discipline. Just because there's a fight on the board doesn't mean you have to play it. Just because there's a DraftKings slate or a FanDuel slate, just because there's a fight on doesn't mean you have to hit that slate. If you don't like it and we're not comfortable with it, we'll pass. We'll pass on it. And we'll wait until one we're super comfortable with it. So it's really about discipline. It's about managing your bankroll properly. And it's about finding the right tournaments where you can really, looking for the overlay. That's another thing. You got to look for some of these tournaments where there's overlay. If you can jump into 1,000 entries, 3-entry max or something, and there's some heavy overlay, jump in on that. As long as they're guaranteed to pay out. As long as they're guaranteed to pay out. So there's so many little outliers that a lot of people don't look at. They just punch on a DraftKings or FanDuel, and they'll click on, the first tournament, the very top tournament, because it's promoted. But they don't look at the payout structure. They don't look at, okay, well, yeah, maybe $1 million goes to first. But once you hit 10th place out of 30,000 people, you're getting $100. Where does that make sense? That means you basically have to win to make money. You basically got to win to really make the money that you want. Because if you're entering that tournament, you're not entering that tournament for $100. You're not entering a DraftKings tournament with 30,000 people to win $100. You're not entering a FanDuel tournament for $100 to win $100. You're looking to hit. You guys are ultimately baited into that tournament. You're baited into that tournament because you saw the flash up top, $100,000 a first, $1 million to first. That's what drew you to that tournament. Not because it says, join this tournament, 30,000 people, and 100 goes to third. You don't give a fuck about that. I don't give a fuck about that. So what you want to do is you want to find the right tournaments. You want to find the 3-entry max tournaments, the single-entry tournaments. You're going to pay a little more for them, but you're going to go against a lot less people, and the playing field is going to be even. You'll have one guy in the field, they'll have one guy in the field. You'll have 3 guys in the field, they'll have 3 guys in the field. Against 500, 700, 1,000 people. You're not going to have 5 guys in the field and they got 150 guys in the field against another 29,000 lineups. It's very hard to do. And a lot of times when you do hit those lineups, you're going to tie. Like me, I tied. 2 weeks ago, I tied. $100,000 the first, I tied. I had to split that up. My guys this week, 5 lineups hit. They all tied with a couple other people. They had to split that up. It all had to be split up. So not only that, but if you really go, like if you go on DraftKings and you go on FanDuel, you look at some of the scoring MMA DFS platform, you'll see that the big tournaments, you really, really need the nuts, right? You really, really need that nut lineup. You need that optimum lineup to hit. When these other tournaments that are smaller, okay, 3-entry max, single entry max, they're a little bit smaller, you don't need the nuts. You need to beat the field. You don't need the nuts. Okay, out of 30,000 people, there's people that are going to have the nut lineup. That's a lot of people. In 1,000 people, 1,200 people, 700 people, you don't need the nuts. So you don't need the nut lineup to win. You need the nut lineup to win these big tournaments. So you see what I'm saying? There's so many angles. There's so many angles to be played and to fly under the radar and still win a good amount of money without going into these tournaments. Because let's put it this way. At the end of the day, MMA DFS A and MMA DFS B, A goes in all the big tournaments. That's all he does. And it's all he or she does. He goes into all these big tournaments. The number one, going for $1 million, go for 100. Chances are he's going to lose a lot. He's going to lose a lot. And if he starts cashing in the 10th place, he'll get some of his money back. He will. He'll get some of his money. Chances are you may not ever hit that, number one. You may never hit it, ever. But if you're going into these other tournaments, the 3-entry maxes, the single entries, the cash, the double ups, all those things, chances are you can cash every week. And you can build your bankroll every week. Why wouldn't you want to do that? $1 is $1. Why do you always got to go for the big stick? Even in my chat with my guys, like they tell me all the time, Contender Series tonight, Bellator tonight, this tonight, that tonight. I tell them all the time, dude, if I don't like it, I'm not playing it. It's about discipline. It's about discipline, building your bankroll, and for longevity. It's not a race. It's a marathon. That's why I've never been in the negative for 6 years. I've been in the positive for 6 years. I got a track record to prove it because I've played very disciplined. I play very, very disciplined, and I don't just bet the bet. You're not going to see me going to my chat firing off 30, 40 live bets to my guys just to catch up. Just to catch up. That's not what I do. I play very, very conservative. I discipline my people to play very conservative, and we win. And we win. And that's just, there's just the proof of it. This is not me guesstimating that we win. This is not me telling you that we win we actually win. And it's documented that we do win. So just keep all those little nuances in mind. As far as the lineup construction and stuff, that's another video for another day. As far as targeting the tournaments, that's the most important thing. Number one, you got to target the right tournaments to maximize your profits. That's what it's about. It's about targeting the right tournaments and maximizing your profits. Now, if you're going for, if you're playing MMA Daily Fantasy Sports and you're really, really into it, and this is a way that you're going to really try to make money and try to make a little business of yourself, whether it's a side business or whether it's your main source of revenue, which I know some people who do. We partnered with, and I'm very proud of this, we partnered with Fantasy Labs and Action Network. Those of you, I'm sure, if you are in the MMA Daily Fantasy space with DraftKings and FanDuel and stuff, you know who they are. They are, without a doubt, the platinum standard for technology. They have great optimization tools. They have just, the site is amazing. When they gave me access to go in and really tinker around with things, I was blown away by, their technology. So basically what we're going to be doing for them is, and for us, we're going to be, we kind of just partnered up within the last week. I am going to be doing all the projections for their optimizer. Okay, so what that means is it'll almost be like me sitting next to you. Okay, and I will be giving you my projections. I'll tell you what my projections are. This is for the people who don't know what an optimizer is. You're going to see all my projections up there. You're going to add how many lineups you want. You want 5, you want 10, you want 20, you want 30. You want to be a max entry guy and go 150, then so be it. You load in your entries. You're going to have my projections. You're going to be able to tinker my projections with your projections, with what you think. You may not agree with me. You may say, well, Lab is way off here. I don't agree with him. So he wants me to go 70% on this guy. I'm going to go 40. You can change everything up. So it's basically me and you putting our heads together and forming these perfect lineups. Super excited about it. Very, very, it's something I wanted to do for a while. After I started this company 4 weeks ago, you're looking for the right fit. You're looking for the right business partner, the right business mind, people with the proper vision. And these people are extremely professional. They're extremely nice, welcoming. I mean, everything is user-friendly. And they are the best at what they do. I mean, bar none, they are the best at what they do. So it's an honor for me to be aligned with them, and I'm looking forward to it. So you can get more information on that on their site. I'll be putting articles out every Saturday, I believe they're going to be posting them. On the Action Network, it's free. You'll be able to read my main event breakdown with a pick and maybe some DFS. And then if you want the rest of my stuff, you go to the MadLabMMA.com, you sign up there. And obviously, they'll be offering the Optimizer tool. We'll be offering the Optimizer tool. And we just got a great working relationship. So that's another option that we're going to be injecting into MMA DFS, which I'm super, super excited about. So it's something that you definitely want to look into. I'm super psyched to do it. I'm going to be using it myself. And it's definitely going to give my people and hopefully you a clear edge. Also, I know sometimes this can be a little confusing. You know what I mean? If you don't have the platform in front of you, if you're really new to the game and you're not understanding exactly how to translate what I'm saying. Well, what I did do is I created something a long time ago. It was called the MMA Bible Code. And basically we gave this to, all our subscribers and stuff like that to really read. And it's about my process, how to actually break down fights and fighters and what my process is in that realm of the platform. So after you target and after you find the tournaments that you're comfortable with, this is something that you could look at as a tool for yourself to add to your repertoire, to completely build a wireframe and a foundation for you new players in MMA Daily Fantasy Sports. If you're trying to build that foundation, you could utilize this to take what you want. You could use the whole thing, but it basically is just a complete process of what to look for when you're watching film, how to break down film. It's absolutely free. The link is below. Click the link. You could download it and you could check it out. And you can also comment on that as well. I'd appreciate that. With that said, I got to get back. I got to start really diving into this card this week, so I have to go. We're going to be building this page up heavily. At least once a week, we're going to be posting videos. A lot of evergreen videos as far as, helping you build your lineups. We're going to be jumping to FanDuel, to DraftKings, pretty much anything MMA Daily Fantasy Sports involved. And another thing, guys, anytime you have questions, put them down there. If it's a great topic, I'll cover it. Do me a favor, hit subscribe, click the bell below. Anytime something I post, you will get notified on it. You need to contact me in any way, you can go over to the site at themadlabmma.com. You can email me at mike@themadlabmma.com. I try to really answer everybody. It's getting a little crazy now with emails and stuff like that, but I do try to answer everybody. You can also find me on Twitter at MadLabMMA. Where obviously I sit there all night on Saturday night and I go round for round. I do all the fights. Please join me there. I would appreciate that as well. I look forward to hearing from you guys, seeing you guys cash money, and hearing about your success stories when you follow this process.